Is it Life Day?
Before listening to this show, you should watch Chapter 5 of The Mandalorian on Disney+. Spoilers ahead.
I can bring you in warm, or I can bring you in cold.
Hello, welcome to Galactic Initiative. I'm your host, Jeff. Today, David, Sean, and I will be discussing Mandalorian Chapter 5, The Gunslinger. Welcome, David.
Hello.
Welcome, Sean.
Hello, my friend.
Let's begin. The chapter opens with a bounty hunter trying to shoot down the Mando in space. The bounty hunter's fighter appears faster and more maneuverable than the Razor Crest, which takes serious punishment from the fighter's laser cannons. But with the ship falling apart, Mando pulls an experienced pilot's maneuver to win the encounter. Thoughts on the dogfight?
The ship reminded me of one of the Naboo fighters from Episode 1. The line that the bounty hunter used, we have already heard before from the Mando. I think a little too soon to be repeating lines. Pretty good fight. I thought the CGI was good, special effects. But here we go again with damaged ship. Growing theme that we've had, going down that path again.
Also, your experienced pilot move is something we've seen a lot. I'm going to hit the brakes. He's going to fly right on by. And David's point is well taken. The repetitive trope of the damaged ship and get help. It's a plot device. It sets up the episode. Obviously, now we've broken the ship. We have to land. We've had a convenient dogfight. I did think it was funny, though, when the Mandalorian said, "That's my line. You're not going to take it."
The opposing pilot flies with a mask throughout the encounter. The Mando pulls the braking maneuver, destroys the ship, and the mask is off so he can scream to create dramatic effect of the explosion. Minor thing, but I chuckled. Anyway, is it that he knows the Mando's line and he's he's taunting him?
I do think he knows him. There were a couple other lines that he said regarding the child. Yeah, I think it was more of a taunt than anything.
I don't know. Was he taunting him, or is it just something that in the galaxy far, far away you say that's kind of hard before you kill somebody?
I'd never heard the line before the first episode, but Mando claims the line as his own. Well, the Razor Crest limps toward a familiar planet. When the Mando receives communication from air traffic control, we realize that planet is Tatooine, and the Mando is about to land at Mos Eisley. So honestly, how did you feel when you saw Tatooine and heard Mos Eisley over the comm?
Woohoo! Honestly, that was my first thought. I mean, I smiled. I was excited. When they went from those mountains where we saw the land speeder, Obi-Wan, the droids, and Luke standing there, and he flew past that into Mos Eisley and brought back a lot of really cool memories. I mean, that did hit a chord with me. I loved it.
I, too, felt the nostalgia, using the same shot and seeing the overview of Mos Eisley and all that. It was nice. We're in the Star Wars universe. We're going to familiar places. The season is giving us a lot of fan service in the right way. We land him, we get the guy over the radio talking about Mos Eisley Spaceport, so immediately our interest is piqued, and then we see the same visuals or similar visuals that we got in Episode 4, and it's not overdone or overplayed, and it feels right when we get this callback to the original trilogy.
Obviously, we recognize the major impact Star Wars has had on all our lives, but Mos Eisley Spaceport and the scene from A New Hope, it snaps you back into your childhood immediately. It happens in a fraction of a second, and you're there. You're 5 or you're 6 or you're 8, whatever you were when you first saw Episode 4. So next we meet Peli, a colorful maintenance worker at one of Mos Eisley's docking bays. The Mando refuses to allow her pit droids near the Razor Crest. Mando lacks the necessary credits for full repairs, so he must search for jobs in the area. The streets appear less crowded than before, and he passes battle-scarred stormtrooper helmets on spears. First question, Peli, annoying or entertaining?
First time around, I thought she was entertaining. Interesting character. Might have been her first time working with CGI or non-existing characters, pushing buttons and trying to act like a mechanic. The acting was a little bit, I guess, wonky, but she did a good job of the introduction, and her dialogue was well done. I really liked the stormtroopers on a stick. that really added to the grittiness of not only what Mos Eisley had become, but also the grittiness of the show. Not so much of the bright and shiny. We were getting back to the New Hope version and Empire Strikes Back where things look used.
I found her to be slightly annoying. I hate to say that, but this character, maybe it's just the acting. She serves a purpose. She's the mechanic. Amanda's ship is broken. I don't know. The first time I saw her, she struck me as an older version of Ripley from the Alien saga. It's kind of the outfit and the hairdo. I was like, wow, I've seen that before. But her acting, it's not the best performance we've ever had in a Star Wars film. The walkthrough, 5-year-old me was very much into that. And like David said, the stormtrooper, helmets on a pike, interesting visual element in this portion of the episode because it's a warning to anyone who may have Imperial proclivities. Bad things are going to happen to you if you are a member of a remnant of the Empire, or B, you're some kind of sympathizer or someone who used to be in the Empire. Scenery in these episodes and the use of callbacks is fantastic.
Unfortunately, the streets don't provide more context. We don't learn more about the state of local affairs and the galaxy after the fall of the Empire. We have this powerful image of the stormtrooper helmets, but then we go no further. Curious, like, what happened? How did it happen? What's going on Tatooine? We get a little bit more in the coming scene, but the streets are almost empty. There's not a lot happening. There's not a lot to see out there. Is that budget and special effects, or is that an intentional choice? What do you think?
The syndicates and the crime lords all operated on the Outer Rim because it was just beyond the reach of the Empire. This is Hadrian's Wall, and the borderline between civilization and savagery. This is not a pretty place you're going to. It's very violent here. Now, what's the big payoff on that? Well, like you say, there really isn't one. There's no conversation about it. It's not like Mando walks into the cantina and he's like, "What's up with the helmets?" And the bartender's like, "Well, back in the day," like we don't get that exposition. But here, the other thing about the empty streets, it's an interesting question: is it a budget issue or not? I think it may initially have been a budget issue, but you could also explain it away as people were living or interacting or doing commerce in Mos Eisley as a necessity. But now that the Empire is gone, perhaps they've moved farther in towards the core worlds because they don't no longer fear the oppression or the punishment of the Empire. But is it Life Day?
Final question for this section. You've already touched on the theme of the damaged ship. Modern Star Wars introduces practical concerns such as hyperfuel and monetary exchange rates. Do these realities diminish the sense of adventure?
No, I think it actually adds to it. Gives it more of a purpose that you just don't take those things for granted. I mean, it adds to the story, I believe.
I don't think that the financial aspect is anything new to Star Wars. I mean, we've seen the bartering and the bargaining and money and hard currency and all these things. What is bounty hunting? I mean, what is a bounty? A bounty implies some kind of cash reward. I don't think any of these practical concerns, things like fuel or money or the need for food or any of this stuff, it doesn't feel out of place. I mean, because again, this is kind of a Western, right? And half of Western movies are guys trying to find a dinner and some bullets and maybe something to fix the wagon with. It falls right in line with that trope.
So after our stroll through Mos Eisley, where does Mando end up? Shalom's Cantina. Also less crowded than before, and a droid is bartending. The times, they are a-changin'. Mark Hamill voices EV-99, yes, the droid overseer from Jabba's palace. 99 tells Mando the Bounty Hunters Guild no longer operates on Tatooine. More connections with the past. Returning to the cantina was an intriguing decision. Was it worth the effort? What did you like or dislike about the scene?
This whole episode, we get a lot of callbacks, obviously, to the original trilogy. The homage to Episode 4 with the flyover of Mos Eisley, and now we're getting Return of the Jedi callbacks with EV-99. The fact that Mark Hamill does the voice, Luke Skywalker in the cantina voicing the robot whose kind we used to not serve there. It's a fun play. It's a fun juxtaposition, and it's playing with the heartstrings a little bit. I like that they redid the cantina and brought it back. It's fun, and the Bounty Guild not working or not on the planet anymore. Clearly, things have changed in the universe. There is there's been an evolution. There's been a change. It's a different world. Are we learning that the Bounty Hunter Guild might be shrinking? We don't know, but the more things change, the more they stay the same, kind of a deal. Like clearly, we're in a different time, a different era, and there's different things going on, but we still get that good, familiar feeling of the cantina. And again, I enjoyed it.
So for me, with the cantina, I really liked it. I think the one thing that was sorely missing was no band playing. I would have loved some type of music. That would have been nice. I would have liked to have seen something different, though. We've been to the side booths before. Take me to a back room. Take me into a different section. Show me something new. But I like the fact that there was droids. Thought that was really cool.
Maybe droids don't like music, David.
All droids like music. I should know.
We have a droid DJ at the cantina in Galaxy's Edge.
That's true, and they've even made an action figure of said DJ.
So the news about the Bounty Hunters Guild is bad for Mando. A brash young man overhears the exchange and proposes a partnership. The newbie sitting in Han Solo's booth is named Toro Calican. He needs to capture a high-value asset, Fennec Shand, for guild membership. Mando knows Fennec Shand is a skilled assassin and at first refuses the job, but Calican offers all the credits in return for Mando's help. Impressions of Calican? Is he a Han Solo proxy?
It's not pulled off very well. This guy, he's tracked this person here. He's clearly way out of his league. So it's frustrating. I'm sorry.
Well, with that guy, though, was it more acting, or do you think it could have been pulled off better?
I don't think it's the acting per se, but it's like the character is acting. As soon as he starts talking to the Mando and they make this deal, I knew right away, like, okay, he's either going to betray the Mandalorian or his ineptitude is going to get them in trouble. He's going to go full Jar Jar Binks, and he's going to...
He's also desperate, though, Sean. I mean, it's not like he has a whole lot of choices.
Yeah, but do you trust the rookie? Are you going to put your life in the hands of the rookie? Maybe he can go find another job. Maybe it wasn't as profitable, or the potential for profit might not have been high. Maybe he could have done 2 or 3 small jobs and made the same amount of money. But instead, you're going with a guy who's got no experience, talks a big game, and he's going after one of the more lethal killers in the galaxy, right? It doesn't make a lot of sense.
Calican might be good because he's bad. We, being the audience, don't like him from the first moment we see him. Part of it has to do with the location. He's sitting in Han Solo's spot, and he's behaving a little bit like Han Solo, but the earring, was that a shot at Harrison Ford?
I didn't even notice the earring. Ode to him or a shot at him? And I know, like you said, Sean, and you, Jeff, that he was trying to act Solo-esque, but it took me out of the episode.
I did not see the earring, despite the fact that the fans love Han Solo, the original Han Solo, as portrayed by Harrison Ford. I don't think this character is an homage to Han Solo.
Din Djarin does not appear worried about Mos Eisley as a hive of scum and villainy, and it no longer seems to be. But does his partnership with Calican make sense in light of his wanted status with the guild? It seems odd that he's taking on work that involves the Bounty Hunters Guild when this bounty will not clear his wanted status, and he desperately needs to stay off the guild's radar.
Well, yeah, but the deal that he struck is you get the credit with the guild, I get the money. All he cares, all the Din Djarin cares about is the cash, so he can pay off Ripley's mom, so he can get off this planet. Yeah, he's taking a lot of risks. He's taking actions that could put him on the radar of the guild and other people who are looking for him right now. Absolutely, when it comes to turning in the bounty.
If Calican finds out the Mando is wanted by the guild, he can collect the bounty and either tip off the guild to Mando's location or go after Mando himself. I'm sure these thoughts crossed Din Djarin's mind. He makes a calculation. He goes for the potential credits, but there are a lot of holes in this plan.
it feels like in the show, Mando works exclusively with Grief Karga, but I also think that there's something about the pucks and about the tracking fobs. Those come from somewhere, and they're put out to these particular regional people. The question is, can you turn those in anywhere for payment? To Jeff's point, on one hand, he is trying to send in the kid for the credit, and then he's putting a lot of faith in this idiot by saying, you go inside and get the money and get your name on the rolls, and then you come out and give me the money, and then we'll part ways and everything's great. There's also an issue here now. There's no Bounty Hunters Guild on Tatooine, so this agreement means that the two of them are going to have to travel somewhere in order for him to turn her in and get his bounty and all the stuff. It just seems like there's a lot of stuff here that needs to be sorted out and figured out. Bottom line is, Din Djarin is making some really stupid choices, and it's based on a lot of blind trust as somebody he just met. Not smart.
Final point before we move on. If you're paying Toro Calican, you would know that Toro Calican could not bring in Fennec Shan by himself. So it would lead to questions.
The best choice would have been to let this blowhard move on and then go find work somewhere else. And who knows, you might stumble across his corpse one day and just take that bag of credits anyway.
Agreed. So at the docking bay, Heli meets and fawns over the child. Calican glimpses the little guy before leaving with Mando, a moment that will prove significant in the chapter. Mando and Calican drive speeder bikes beyond the Dune Sea. Along the way, they encounter Tusken Raiders. Mando negotiates safe passage by giving away Calican's new electro binoculars. Thoughts on the Sand People's appearance?
Well, first of all, it was nice to see the speeder bikes. Sand People I had a problem with. I know Sean has probably more of a issue with it. I'm really not a big fan of pan across. There's nothing behind them, not even like a small hill. Pan back, and then whoop! Hey, there's something there. For the Sand People, I kind of like them being a little ruthless. I mean, it's almost like we're trying to make all the bad guys be good guys, or at least lovable and cuddly.
I understand in this particular show we're trying to rehabilitate savages, but we start with Luke in episode 4, and these guys just roll him and try and take his land speeder and brutalize him, and because he was in their neighborhood. And then we get the prequels, and we get Anakin Skywalker dealing with his mother being kidnapped and tortured and possibly worse. We were given the Sand People as a catalyst for Anakin to go to the dark side, but a little bit of a gray area, like it's kind of justified, maybe. This is the lexicon in which we are working, right, with this series. And now suddenly, if you just know how to barter with them, we're going to be able to travel through their particular territory out here beyond the Dune Sea, and they're happy. On one hand, I see them trying, like David said, trying to redeem the bad guys, or trying to make everybody, lovable and huggable and whatever. And maybe it's a Disney thing, I don't know, but I found this to be out of place.
The partners encounter a wandering dewback dragging a lifeless rider by the saddle. After approaching the body, Mando is shot several times from long range and barely reaches safety behind a ridge.
It brought the Mando out in the open and gave her an opportunity to snipe. It's amazing. He's only covered in so much Beskar, but it seems like everybody is able to shoot and not really be able to hurt him. So he's lucky in that she has a scope. You'd think that she would be able to recognize that he had armor and maybe try and go after the other guy, but she obviously went after the first guy she saw and was unsuccessful.
The dead guy is a decoy. I don't know if he was a decoy or if he was conveniently, they just arrived at the right time and he was there. I guess I don't really have a lot to comment on it. I mean, it works. It's interesting. Moving the plot along, they found her. They're now in combat, and they're trying to come up with a way to trick her, overpower her, somehow beat her, win this battle.
Should we have recognized the corpse? I've rewatched the episode several times, and I'm guessing it was a bounty hunter with a fob coming to get Shand.
Well, it's funny. It's funny that you have to ask this question, right? I did not recognize him as anyone significant from Star Wars material. He didn't stick out to me as somebody from a comic book or perhaps even a novel that I've read. He's not clearly from any of the movies. But it's funny because you asked this question because we are at a point here in this, especially this particular episode, because now we've fully gone fan service in the sense that we're back on Tatooine, right? So we're expecting all of these particular callbacks. We are now starting to, as fans, condition ourselves because as we've gone back and rewatched the older episodes or the episodes that have come before this one, as we've come in contact with people who are fans of other parts of Star Wars lore, the expanded universe or the video games or, the old Dark Horse comic books or the old Sunday serials in the newspapers or the original trilogy or we find the people who are experts in that particular fandom are pulling things out of these episodes, stuff that we might not recognize. And we're pulling things out of these episodes that, stuff that we know from toys and from our youth and, all this stuff. So the fact that we're now at a point here in this particular episode where we are asking the question, the dead guy that was dragged across the scene for, about 32 seconds, is that guy important? We're on an Easter egg hunt. So I don't recognize him from anything. It seems like none of us recognize him from anything, but I'm pretty sure somebody out there is going to find out that he was standing behind a guy in the third panel on the fourth page of a 1978 Marvel comic or whatever. We're going to figure it out. And they're pulling out all kinds of fun stuff and throwing it at us. And I think there's almost kind of a, let's see if they can catch it all. Let's see if they can find all the references.
It in some cases, at least, I purposely try to not pay attention to that and just watch the episode, but harder as you go along to not stop and think, where is that guy from? And maybe it's my fault that I'm so entrenched in Star Wars that A, I know to look for these things, and B, I know a lot about what they are, so it makes it a little bit more challenging for me to watch the episode and just kind of enjoy it.
Yeah, you can still enjoy it. I think it makes it a lot of the stuff so far has made it more enjoyable because Favreau and Filoni, who are making this television show, are fans of Star Wars, and they want other fans to know that they're fans of Star Wars. But yes, it does. It creates a little stress for me sometimes because I sometimes worry, am I fan enough? It's almost, it creates sort of an insecurity, man. You're having a crisis of faith. You're kind of like, man, I've been a Star Wars fan my whole life and I didn't even get that. I should have known that.
I really enjoy that aspect of the show. I love the Easter eggs, and it forces me to think and go digging. But we should not have insecurity around it because each of us has a rich history to draw on, knowledge that comes from different areas of the Star Wars galaxy. So we cover all the bases together as a team. I always think, well, I'm looking forward to discussing this with Sean and David because they'll have found things that I missed. I just know going in that I'm not going to see everything. I just accept it.
Well, and I totally agree with both of you, but it seems like there is a whole lot of old and not as much new.
If there is going to be an episode where we're going to get overloaded with something that we've seen before, it's going to be an episode that takes place on Tatooine. A film.
Take me someplace else. Take me someplace else in Tatooine. Hop back in your ship, go someplace else, then come back and do whatever you need to do.
Right. Well, I mean, Arvala 7, was that a previously established planet?
No, and that's why I really enjoyed it.
Oh, I know, and I'm not saying you're wrong. That's why I'm agreeing with you that yes, we need to be exploring more, not less. We need to be expanding the galaxy, not shrinking it. But there has to be a narrative thread that carries us all the way through. So when we do wind up in these new places, we still understand that this is Star Wars. That's not bad. That's not fan service. That's not being lazy. That's understanding the language and the architecture of the universe that we're in. When you go to the same 5 planets over and over again, then you might be accused of being lazy. there is a very fine line that you have to walk when you're dealing with an established franchise or an established universe. You can overdo it, being self-referential.
Mando recommends waiting until nightfall. There's a funny scene with Calacan practicing his quick draw, pointing his gun at what he believes is a sleeping Mando. But of course, the Mando is not sleeping. And they drive at high speed toward a rock formation where Shand is hiding. They alternate flares to disrupt Shand's rifle scope. Calacan misses a turn, so Mando is shot off his speeder bike. Calacan confronts Shand in the rocks. She disarms and beats him, but Mando arrives in time for the save.
I really like the flares. Very creative, very believable. You're looking through a night scope and all of a sudden it's sunny out. There's no way you're going to be able to shoot your target. And the missing of his shot, I think, was the incompetence that we were all expecting. Being a young bounty hunter, not up for the task. Oops, I forgot to shoot. My turn? Okay. But I always have a problem when they get into a dialogue. If you know there's a potential for this person to cause problems, I'm sorry, I'm going to take them out. I'm just going to take care of business and move forward.
You don't make a speech, and he puts everybody at risk. Yes, he's a noob, but I can't blame him for everything, because if Din Djarin was smart, he would have killed her himself. Yeah, it might also speak to his character. He's a single dad with a green kid. I get it. But in the words of the client, bounty hunting is a complicated profession. Din Djarin in this particular episode is making it a lot more complicated than it has to be.
With only one speeder bike and Shand in custody, the partners need transportation. Mando heads out to locate the wandering dewback. Shand advises Calacan to free her and betray Mando. She mentions the fight on Arvala 7 and the child, and teases the legendary status from turning over Mando to the Guild. Calacan appears conflicted, but makes his decision.
It's an interesting dilemma that he has, because he could potentially be the greatest bounty hunter in the galaxy if he pulls off the twofer. He gets all the money, he gets all the praise. If he stuck with the original plan, that would have been the win-win for Calacan. He's received the information that he needs from her about all these things that are going on, things that he was not aware of going into this job and doing the deal with the Mando. But this episode is a series of bad decisions. Mando wandering off in the desert to find a dewback. He's going off on foot. I mean, what's the best case scenario in the mind of the Mando? I'm going to go wander off in the desert for a day without any water looking for a pack animal, and I'm going to leave an inept kid with an earring to guard a trained killer, and hopefully when I get back, one or both of them will still be alive.
Just not a smart decision on his part. So yeah, a continued poor decision-making process on the Mando, who we were led to believe was this intelligent bounty hunter, and he could I don't know, drag them both with him to get the dewback.
I've considered Calacan's choice in the context of everything we've learned about him, and I can't reconcile it. Why would he kill Shand, a prisoner who guarantees his guild membership?
It feels like to me that there's plenty of ways that this could have played out. None of them are easy, but that's the whole point. I mean, that's, I guess, my whole complaint. Mando makes a plan at the beginning of this episode that assumes that everything will go right. We are going to find this person. We are going to apprehend this person. We are going to return them to the Bounty Hunters Guild and collect a bounty. And I am not going to be implicated in any way, so the Bounty Hunters Guild doesn't know that I'm even involved in this, but I'm going to get all this money. So then I can pay this lady to get my ship back, and I can move on with my adventure with my little green friend.
It's true, and Calacan's decision follows that same poor logic or poor judgment. Calacan has achieved guild membership. He's in the desert with Shand. He has a speeder bike. He could transport Shand back to Mos Eisley, leave the planet, collect the bounty. He could kill Shand, put her body on the speeder bike, take the body back to Mos Eisley, go get paid. What the character has expressed to us as motivation in the beginning of the episode has been achieved.
Ever since A New Hope, the stormtroopers set their blasters on stun. this would be a great opportunity for Calican to stun her, throw her on the back, and then go. That's all he had to do, and leave Mando. And by the time he gets back to Mos Eisley, Calican's gone, and he's part of the guild. Boom, done. Mission accomplished. But yet he makes the poor decision of killing her and thinking he can take out Mando because his bounty may be a couple credits more. Just absolutely stunningly dumb decision.
Calican is a sore winner. He has to show the world that he won, and he has to tell everybody about how winning he is. I mean, he wants to make a speech, and he wants everybody to see him do it. Everybody, except for Ripley's mom, everybody in this episode makes really bad choices.
The decision by Calican to kill Shand, it was a curveball. And I like curveballs. I just, wish it was a more grounded decision. But anyway, Mando rides the dude back to Mos Eisley after he finds Shand's corpse and no sign of his partner. The newbies' ambush at the docking bay is clumsy and stupid. Mando uses a flare to temporarily blind Calican before gunning him down. The young man's credits cover Peli's work, and the Razor Crest leaves Tatooine.
It just shows, again, how stupid Calican is, that he gets bested by shooting flares. You were with the Mando when you used flares to blind the lady with her sniper rifle. You should know.
He should have been long gone before Mando got there with the super duper slow do-back. Rookie.
He wants to take Mando, but his plan is to hold the child and Peli hostage? He doesn't know the relationship between Mando and the child. Yes, Mando has taken the child under his protection, but what if in that moment the Mando just decides that the child can be sacrificed and just shoots Calican in the head? Mando arrives after Calican has had ample time in Mos Eisley. He's literally just waiting in the Mando ship with the child. Does not account for the Mando's advantages, the gadgets and gizmos he carries with him. He cannot shoot through Beskar. So he cannot win a gunfight. Lay a trap. Make it a proper ambush.
To your point, Jeff, Calican knows absolutely nothing about what's going on between the child and the Mandalorian. He doesn't understand that there is a clan of two situation, or that there's a protectorate, or that there's some kind of larger relationship there between foundlings and all this other stuff. He doesn't know any of that. He just knows that the bounty hunter has a bounty on him. Calican is trying to be a bounty hunter. His only reference point for bounty hunting is himself, what his personal moral compass is, what he's willing to do to get the job done. And so he would never have made the decision to hang around and wait for the Mando. Such a duplicitous person has low moral character, and if he self-projects onto the Mandalorian, he should know that it doesn't matter who he holds up in front of him as a hostage, whether it be Ripley's mom or the child, that the Mando is just going to shoot through them to get to him. But then take into the consideration that he's witnessed the skills and the prowess and like you say, the gadgets and the armor and all the plus whatever that the Mando has. He's got to know that it's doomed from the start. And we've established that Baby Yoda is aware enough, is cognizant enough, is sentient enough to understand that it has a connection with Din Djarin and is willing to protect him. And so when Din Djarin is in danger, it takes action in the Force. Like we saw that with the Mudhorn. In this scenario, why not just get him out of there? Like do some Force magic.
In short, the point that we're making, and we're in agreement, the writing just didn't hold up, particularly at the tail end of the episode.
This one was Filoni.
When you say that, do you mean directing or writing?
Both. He
directed this one.
Yes.
Okay.
But
There's a lot of people involved in this. Right?
I would say though that with a first time live action director, I think that explains some of the flaws in this episode.
I agree with the directing part of your critique, but Dave Filoni is an accomplished writer. The Clone Wars, Rebels, he clearly understands character and story and dialogue and all these things. He's created characters who have compelling stories. The guy knows how to write. We're getting an episode from a guy who is, other than George Lucas, is mostly responsible for Star Wars and has been creating a lot of really amazing Star Wars stuff outside of the Lucas movies. Yet he can't seem to get a simple linear freshman level creative writing course. Dave should know better. Not Dave on our show, Dave, but Dave Filoni should know better. Dave on our show even knows better, and that's saying a lot. But we come to the reviews of these episodes from a place of appreciation and love for the franchise of Star Wars, the art that it is, and the joy that it brings us. You know, there's so many things going on in this show that mean so much to us as fans. We have this appreciation and passion for this stuff. And so once we're done murdering this episode, we still have to talk about the last 3 seconds, which is Jeff's favorite part, I think.
Yes. Of this episode, it is my favorite part. We heard spurs. We saw a cape. That leads me to believe it's Boba Fett.
I'm almost 100% certain that this is Boba Fett.
If it is Boba Fett, why was Boba Fett there? Was he tracking the Mando, tracking the child, tracking Shand, just happened to be in the neighborhood?
I think he probably hangs out in those mountains. That would be my guess.
What's the significance of him showing up and looking at the dead lady or whatever? And like, why is he still on the planet? We don't know, right? They're trying to tease everybody. Like, oh my God, was that Boba Fett? I mean, I've heard all kinds of things about that scene. Is it Grief Karga looking for the Mando? Is it Ahsoka Tano? Like, I've heard all kinds of stuff about that, but they made it too vague.
All right, guys, what is your favorite part and least favorite part of the episode?
Favorite part of the episode, the nostalgia for seeing Tatooine again. Least favorite part of the episode, holes in the plot and the conclusion.
My favorite part is that whole introduction scene, the flyover, whatever you want to call it, where we see the same view from episode 4. My least favorite part is everything else.
My favorite part, actually, besides those that you've already mentioned, Calican and Mando shooting of the flares. My least favorite part was, honestly, the Tusken part. So, out of 10, what would you guys give this episode?
5.
Yeah, I'd say 5.
I give it a 7 in Internet Movie Database. The score for this episode was a 7.6, which is the lowest compared to the other episodes. Episode 4 was a 7.8, and then everything else is in the 8s and 9s.
Our discussion of The Gunslinger, Chapter 5 of The Mandalorian, has come to an end. Thank you to David and Sean. Coming soon, our review of Chapter 6, The Prisoner. If you like the show, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel Galactic Initiative.
Galactic Initiative is not authorized or endorsed by Lucasfilm Limited. The name Star Wars and all related materials are registered trademarks of Lucasfilm Limited, a subsidiary of the Walt Disney Company, all rights reserved. Galactic Initiative is a registered trademark, and other product and company names are trademarks of their respective holders. Use does not imply affiliation or endorsement.
I have spoken.